Welcome to the Minds of E-commerce podcast, where you'll learn one key strategy that made leading e-commerce companies grow exponentially. We cut the bullshit and keep the meat. In a 15-minute episode, founders and executives take us through a deep dive of a strategy so you get to learn and grow your online sales. In the last episode, you heard from Phil Kiprianou of Gothwriter, who shared with us how he's been using quizzes as a way to attract and convert traffic at crazy low acquisition cost. Today, on episode number 8, Jack Haldrup, founder of Dr Squatch, will share how they managed to get 40 million views for one of their viral videos and how they get over 100,000 orders a year with a brand personality that convert customers through relatability and humor. He'll also explain how he manages to preserve a brand identity as the company scales significantly. I'm your host, Raphael Paulin-Daigle, and I'm the founder of SplitBase, a conversion optimization agency for lifestyle, beauty, and fashion e-commerce brands. And quick disclaimer before we begin, Dr. Squatch is a client of SplitBase for conversion optimization services. Get ready. This is Minds of E-commerce. All right, Jack, welcome to the show. So as you know, this podcast, Minds of E-commerce, is all about going deep into things you've done really well for your e-commerce brand so our listeners can really get the most value out of it. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I'd love to know, just to provide context for our listeners, for how long have you had Dr. Squatch?
So I actually started the company officially in fall of 2012.
Gotcha. Still pretty recent. Now, it's just a few years, and now you've achieved the type of growth that so many companies are just dreaming about, right? So we're talking here, I mean, I actually want you to share it. I know some of your numbers, but tell people, what are some of like the craziest successes that you've achieved so far with Dr. Squatch?
Yeah, so I'd say we're one of the largest direct sellers of soap online. We primarily focus on the male market, but we're shipping out over 5,000 bars of soap per day. Have over 200,000 customers who have purchased from us. Some of our content has been very successful. I think our biggest video has over 40 million video views across different platforms.
Amazing. So for people listening, 40 million views for a viral video, that's pretty insane. But one of the things that to me that really stands out about Dr. Squatch is that it really has a brand voice, a brand personality. People identify with the brand, with what it sells, and it stayed, really consistent as the company grew. And, I think that's one of your key drivers of success from our previous conversations. And that's one thing that I think, our listeners can learn a lot from. So let's start with, brand voice and that whole personality that you have about, around Dr. Squatch. Tell us more about that strategy and was it a conscious decision to really have a face to the brand and how did that work?
So it actually was a very conscious decision, and it strongly relates to why I started the company in the first place. So I basically discovered these really nice natural handmade soaps. I didn't identify with any of the branding of it. And more importantly, I thought that it wasn't being marketed to a male audience. But I thought they would love the product if they received it in the right way, the messaging in the right way. So from the brand perspective, it always has kind of been about brand for us and basically saying, how can we sell a really great product that's actually better for people that they will enjoy? But we have to communicate and reach them in a way that they're going to receive that. And so being kind of the male customer that I thought I was generally going to target, it made a lot of sense to basically lead with humor and to lead with, I would say lead with authenticity versus a lot of men's brands I saw in the market that were kind of showcasing this ideal guy and, a perfect guy, everything is super polished. And I just wanted to do something that was a little bit more authentic.
Amazing. So what you saw is an opportunity to sell a product that obviously was already on the market, but for an audience that wasn't really targeted by any other brands out there.
Correct.
Now you developed that brand and personality around that audience. How did you know that the personality traits for the brand that you were building were the right ones? How did you have to try different brand tones? Tell us more about how you found that perfect voice.
Yeah, totally. I think it's always a work in progress, and it's also a little bit about meeting people where they're at in different platforms. And I can give some more specific examples about that. But I will say one interesting thing that happened was when I created it, I did think that the ideal customer for this would be maybe a little more affluent coastal type customer who's very into like buying natural products. But I actually found that it really resonated with a little bit more of a blue collar or more of an outdoorsy guy from more of like middle America.
Right.
And so that didn't come into place for maybe a year or so. And it was looking at data, and it was also just seeing how people were talking on social media, actually going and looking at those customers, looking at their profiles, and just kind of getting a sense of it. And so it's definitely an art form, I would say. You can, as you grow, you get access to more data, and you can bring a little bit more, science behind that. But I'd say it was an interesting shift that we had when we realized our customer was a little bit different than when I first started out for.
Totally. Are there specific strategies, Jack, that you've used to really dig on, to understand that voice of customer, so you could really meet them where they're at, like you mentioned? And I know you said, they're a bit different on different channels as well. So walk us through, exactly how, you were able to really adapt and improve that voice, and also, depending on the different channels you're using.
Yeah. So it's, like I said, kind of before, it's been something that we've done over, I would say, a 2 to 3 year period, and it hasn't, right. We probably haven't even done it that well, but I would say it involves talking directly to our customers via surveys, whether that's email, or we have a lot of little surveys that we run on our site.
Right.
They're very effective, and we get incredible data from. So that's one component. Like comments and just how people talk on social media is another component. And then there's just looking at the data. And so looking at the data from both like a demographic perspective on who your customers actually are, and then looking at the data, in particular, one example I can give is on Instagram. So we started, I think Instagram as a platform has changed from being perfect pictures and perfect images to like, now it's all memes. And so, we obviously noticed that personally and saw that brands getting a little bit more into that. And so we started just drilling into that a little bit. And, since we started basically introducing memes, a meme will get anywhere from 3 to 15x the likes, the reach, the engagement, everything. And so that's just a clear signal that that's the type of content that people want to consume on the platform. And so it's like, why fight it? So we talked a lot about, should we go all in on the meme? Like, should we go full meme? Should we not? What do we do here? And we still want to retain our brand kind of principles, which is that we I would call it like an edutainment type of brand, where we want to lead with the entertainment, but we want to still stand for something. And so we don't want to lose that. But if we can do that in a meme package, that's what people want to see on social media. So we started launching our new products via memes. We started announcing sales via memes, in addition to kind of the general content, and people just love it. And so, I don't know if that will work for every brand, but it clearly resonates with our customer.
Totally. And let's be clear, you discovered that memes were one of the right methods because you knew so much about your customers, and you did a lot of testing, and you're not just sharing any type of memes here. You're also sharing memes that are relevant to your audience, and that you found out through talking with customers, analyzing comments on Facebook ads, on social media, sending surveys, analyzing, I'm guessing, customer support.
Yeah, I can give a great example of that. So, I mean, like you said, we still almost always try to tie it back to some type of brand value proposition or principle. And so, one of the surveys that we ran recently that actually your team did for us was asking people like, how did your life improve after using the product, or why do you love it so much? And one of the key things was that they like how their significant other would come smell them, or they like the fact that they would compliment them on how they smell. And so we do a meme about that, where it's like Will Ferrell, standing in like a Speedo, and it's like, babe, come smell me, I just showered with, you know, so it's like, it's still on brand, but it's just, and it's hitting those value propositions. And it's, I think it's just the way that as of today, who knows where it's going to go, that's how people are consuming content on that platform. And so that's how we want to communicate to them.
Amazing. So you took the answers of the question, how did your life get better thanks to our products? Based on this feedback that you got, which was, oh, well, my wife loves smelling, you know, my manly scent and, you know, all sort of things like that I would say, you were able to generate content based on that voice of customer. Right. That initially you ignored, right? It's not something that we get if we just brainstorm with our teams. It's really, it has to come from the customer.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's fantastic. Now, if we go and if we look further into, you know, that brand voice, one of the things you've been able to do really well and has been a catalyst for growth for you was that massive viral video, right? So 40 million views. And it just like that video exudes Dr. Squatch. That's really, you know, it's a voice of customer. Tell me more about how you were able to create a video that got shared so much and that resonated with your audience at that level.
Yeah, it's hard, and I don't want to say that we have the magic formula, and we're trying to do it again. So we'll see how our second one comes out. But there's definitely some things that we did. You know, it was a partnership, so there's a lot of assistance from an outside creative firm, and also we work with a comedian who is kind of dedicated to our brand and brings a lot of our ideas to life from a comedic standpoint.
Yep.
But ultimately, what we wanted to achieve was a video that kind of fully told the brand story, that entertained people and captured attention, but then also sold them on the product. And so, you know, we followed this, you know, I don't want to say it's standard, but it's fairly kind of well-documented problem solution kind of framework where we position the problem as like, hey, like you've never thought about the soap that you're using, you know, since basically you were a teenager and you started using whatever your parents gave you or whatever. Most guys have never thought about that, you know, so that's like the problem. That's the attention grabber. And basically that's not the best option for you, most likely. And then positioning us as the solution, and then just kind of like really still hitting on like a lot of things that we felt like our customer would like it's a little bit more, it's like a little bit more masculine. You know, we're talking about like the guy who like opens a pickle jar and catches a foul ball with his bare hands. And so we're bringing in some examples that we feel like will resonate with our customer based on how we, you know, what we knew about them. And, you know, honestly, it's just, I think it was just timing was good, and it just kind of took off, and people shared it. People comment even consistently on our feedback surveys that we do on why you bought the product. Like one of the top 2 or 3 things is I bought it because I loved the video that I saw on YouTube or Facebook, which is a funny reason to buy a product if you really think.
Right. And let's be clear, like your video was not just like, hey, let's hire a comedian that will make something funny with our product. It had this structure of really grabbing the attention, you know, explaining the problem, and then leading into a solution, and then a call to action.
Right. I think the comedy is the kind of the icing on the cake, if you will. So the framework of like kind of that problem solution framework, and really distilling down what you do into kind of its core key element, and understanding like, hey, like most of our customers have been using one of a few 3 to 4 kind of like big name soaps their entire life. We're trying to grab their attention and basically convince them that there's a better way to do it. So how do we do that in a video format? And so in order to like make so a big reason why the video went well is because we understood that that was the customer and that was their journey, like, right. That they weren't like already buying soap at Whole Foods. And then we're trying to convince them that we're better than this other Whole Foods brand. We're trying to convince them that we're better than this, you know, kind of big box brand that they've been using their entire life. So it's speaking just directly to the problem that we're solving for that customer.
Right. And obviously the humor that's into it is one of the huge reasons why it got viral and it got shared so much. But obviously it wasn't hidden on the internet and then somebody randomly discovered it. Are there any tricks that you guys use to, obviously you've put some money behind it, but are there any tricks that maybe people don't know about that you've used to put that video in front of more eyes?
No, it's really simple stuff. I mean, it's really the fact that we can continue to put money behind it and make profitable return.
Right.
At the end of the day, that's really our business model. We don't rely on hope. I do think that it did really well, in particular on Facebook, at least for a period of time,
Right.
because it was so shareable. You know, and it was a new idea kind of in the space, and like, and people just enjoyed it. And so they wanted to share it with their friends. And, you know, one of the things that's funny is that, and that we need to like be careful with, is that we had, you know, probably one of the top comments on the video is like, is this real? Or did I just watch like a Saturday? Like, people didn't know that it was a real product that they could buy because it was, you know, maybe because of how it was shared or how funny it was.
Yep.
But yeah, Facebook has actually essentially prevented us from continuing to run that video because it says like a bleeped out word, and they're continuing to get more strict on their content policies.
Oh, wow.
And so that's been a major challenge for us. And as we plan the next video, we're thinking about that because, you know, this is a very commonly known strategy, but when you have an asset, if you will, on Facebook platform, you can continue to run traffic to it from different, like basically ad campaigns. So it almost becomes its own little like web asset, right? Like an SEO asset. And so you get all of that social proof of like, okay, 20 million views and like 200,000 comments, and all of that is just kind of there. So it becomes this snowball effect. You know, I think that's harder to do. And then we've had challenges with that because they don't let us run the video anymore.
Got it. Well, take note, people, if you're working on a viral video or video wish to become viral, be careful with the words that are being used, and that everything follows Facebook's pretty strict policies.
Right. And we have to plan, you have to be forward thinking on what their policies are going to be in a year too.
Oh my God. I mean, especially, you know, if you're having that type of investment in a video, it's like, you don't want it to be used for a week and that's it. You want to keep using it as an asset. Awesome. So Jack, now let's say we look at, you know, just the Dr Squatch brand, because that includes, you know, that video, the website, everything, the memes on Instagram. Now, if a company is, you know, really looking to define their brand personality and, you know, really give it substance with, you know, a persona, how do they go about it? Like, what would be your like 3 steps? And then I've got more questions for you, but let's start with that.
Is this a brand that's just starting out, or they have traction?
Let's say a brand that has traction. Most people that are listening already have traction, but you know, let's say they're not really sure where to go with that. If they really want to have a persona or not, how would you go about it? Yeah,
personas are hard, and we've hired multiple different companies and agencies and whatever to go through them. You know, it has to be a combination of qualitative and quantitative data. So you have to have general statistics that tell you like, okay, our customer is generally male and generally in these age ranges and stuff like that. And then you have to pair that with talking to the customer, right? And so, and you probably want to do that kind of together, like have them self-identify that they fall in this group, and then ask them some specific questions about who they are. And then bring that to life, basically.
Got it. And let's say, like, still on that topic though, now, how do you ensure that the brand personality scales as you scale? Because I feel like as companies add more people, less and less people are close to you, the founder, the original purpose and story of the brand. So how do you make sure that stays as you add people, grow, and that it just doesn't get lost in the meantime?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and it's hard, and something that we didn't always do well. We have great partners. We have great agency partners. I think when it comes to creative, you have to create frameworks. And you have to define, you know, what are your brand values? Like, what's your brand kind of like style? How do you want to talk? And then you have to give people parameters to play within, whether that's outside partners or people on your team. So I think you set those guidelines and kind of like set those rules, and then you give them room to make decisions and to create things. And then you follow the data on what's created, and you can say, okay, this really resonated. We think this is why. This didn't resonate. So we have a weekly meeting where we just look at creative and look at not only brainstorm, but look at performance of what's been working for us and then try to understand, why we think that is the case.
So you would say one of the biggest recommendations would be to really have that clear brand guide and brand voice and guidelines and a system that everyone can follow and review it on a weekly basis to ensure you're still on tone and on brand with whatever you do creatively.
Yeah, and we don't necessarily review that guideline on a weekly basis. Right. We review more of the content performance, and then we try to put it in that context.
Awesome. What is the biggest mistake that you see brands making when it comes to building, a personality like you've done with Dr. Squatch?
I think the hardest thing that people do is building a company or creating a brand or a product that they don't actually use or that's not for them. I think that was the 80-20 of why ours took off, was because I understood the customer just because it was me and my friends. So I couldn't even imagine launching, a woman's focused brand or something like that I didn't even know how to buy.
Right.
I have no experience in that. So I really don't even feel comfortable in giving people guidance on that because, other than talking to your customers and seeing what they do on social media, I don't know, really how you would get much insight into that.
Right. That's super key, right? If you're your own customer, you will 100% understand the product and your customers better.
Yeah, there's just obviously a lot of advantages to that if you're starting out there.
Totally. Final question, Jacques. Now we're going outside of the realm of brand voice and everything like that. If we just look at your business in general, what would you do differently if you would go a few years back? So not from the very, very beginning, but let's say as you started gaining traction, when you first hit about maybe $1 million, if you were at that point again, what would you do differently?
Two things. I would have focused more on data and understanding my business model, understanding basically my business model from an investment standpoint of if I put $1 into marketing, how long does it take me to get that $1 back?
Right.
Really understand and refine that model. And then I would raise capital a lot faster.
Got it. Awesome. So much gold in this interview, Jack. So just to summarize for everyone. So, we talked about a lot of things. I'm not going to go through all this, but number one, I think one of the key things that really stood out to me in this interview is you really want to understand your customer if you're growing a brand and want to have a personality to it. It's not about creating it or just brainstorming a personality. It's about starting at one point where you think your customers are, and then you evolve from that. So that means running surveys, customer interviews, looking at social media comments, and then trying to understand what words they use. What are their concerns? How do they describe your brand? How do they talk about it to their friends, right? And from there, you can create different type of assets. And you'll never have that oh, that's it, we're there. It's really something that is, it evolves as your brand grows. And to make sure that, you keep that brand voice as the brand grows, you need to make sure you've got guidelines, that you review them with your team, but that the content mostly that you create is reviewed. So your voice is not being lost as you scale and then become a brand void of any personality. So, that's my biggest takeaway. And obviously, same thing when it comes to engineering that viral video. It's not just because it was funny, it's because it had a process, a structure. And again, it also came from your voice of customer. Jack.
Absolutely.
That was awesome. Now, if people want to learn more about your brand or you, where should they go?
Yeah. Dr. Squatch on Facebook or Instagram, or YouTube.
Awesome.
If you go watch our YouTube video, you will understand our brand, way more than I can explain on here. So that's.
I highly recommend it for anyone who needs a good laugh. It is super entertaining and really well done.
Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Jack. All right. That's it for today's episode. In the next episode, you'll hear from Jeff Cayley, CEO of Worldwide Cyclery, and you'll learn how he used smart customer service tactics as the backbone for their growth to nearly $15 million a year in sales. To make sure you don't miss any of the new episodes, subscribe to the podcast. And if you've liked what you've heard, make sure to leave a review in the iTunes store. That would mean the world to me. Now, if you're working on an e-commerce store that does over $1 million in online sales and you want to increase conversions with the same traffic you already have, make sure to go to splitbase.com/assessment. That's splitbase.com/assessment to get a free analysis of your website and find out what's the #1 action item our conversion experts recommend that you do next to boost conversions. If you have any guest requests, questions, or comments, tweet me at rpaulindaigle. That's RPAULINDAIGLE, and I'll be super happy to hear from you. This is Minds of E-commerce.